Ethan in Canada, pronouns are he, him, is a deist who is the final caller for the day. So welcome, Ethan. You're on with Matt and Jovan.
Hello, thank you. Thank you so much. Sorry if I'm sound shaky or anything. I'm a little nervous, but first off, Rush fan, love it. Also, I didn't know you served. Thank you for your service. The way your country treats the vets, disgrace. Anyways, I'll try to keep it quick, but my thing is, my topic was the fact that I think a world without some sort of either deism or theism can't and shouldn't really exist. I don't think it's feasible in the way people react and live in the world. But unless aliens show up, that's kind of the big asterisk.
I'm not sure I understand. So deism and theism, theism is the belief or the acceptance of the claim that there is a God, and deism is the acceptance of the untestable, unfalsifiable claim that there's a God that doesn't intervene in any detectable way. And you think it's not possible or not a good thing to have a world where deism and theism don't exist?
Yeah, those are two vastly different claims.
I think, I do agree they are vastly different claims. And I think both. I think in the current state of how people react and how they attach themselves emotionally with God, and I'm not just saying it's just any type of God in this case. I'm
really quick, Ethan, just really quick. I don't even want to talk about the can't. I agree with you. I don't think if there's a way that we can exist in a world without some form of theism. I don't think it's possible. I think humans will always look for a supernatural answer to questions they don't know. Can't. If Matt wants to address can't, Matt can. I don't care about can't. Shouldn't is the one that
irrationality. I think irrationality is probably going to persist, which means there will probably be someone who always believes irrational things and theistic things of some sort. I don't know for sure that that's the case, but I agree. I think that's most likely. For as long as humans exist, somebody's going to believe shit without a good reason, and that includes a God.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So then I guess more onto then shouldn't. I guess just this is more anecdotal and so I guess some context. I was born and raised Catholic, but my views of religion are, I'm sure some people might call it blasphemous. So it's pretty unorthodox what I believe in. But I think in the sorry, I'm just trying to kind of organize my thoughts. But I think in the long run, until we see some sort of evidence of aliens, just basically my whole thing is once alien shows up, I think that kind of defeats most religions.
Why? How does atheism, how does aliens showing up act as a defeater for deism, which is already an untestable, unfalsifiable proposition?
I guess what I'm more so saying is it defeats religion,
so
institution.
You recognize, as Jovan pretty much agreed, and I largely agreed, that there will always probably be people who believe. But you think that aliens showing up undermines most or all of the world religions in some way.
Yeah, as a man of science, I am a big believer in science. Yeah, I think especially when we think about things made in the image of God. I'm just thinking more of I'm not familiar with say Islamic faith. So I'm going to go based on what I know. I think the religious texts don't account for anything to do with intelligent species and another planet. Sure. And I think
I don't disagree.
How does that address the shouldn't?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but I don't know how this gets to the shouldn't. And also, I don't care because I'm not going to sit around and wait for aliens to show up in order to teach people that they are engaged in irrational, unwarranted beliefs, because people can and do change their mind with regularity. I'm a former fundamentalist Christian. If the atheist community of Austin hadn't stolen 18 years of locked me out of 18 years of my emails, I would have a bucket of emails from former believers who changed their mind based on what we've done. And so people can and do change their mind on a regular basis. I don't know how to tell who's going to change their mind and who won't. So we just got to engage with people. If you're just saying, oh, we're stuck with this at some level until aliens show up, okay, cool. But until aliens show up, I'm going to keep trying to decrease the number of people who believe irrational things. What's wrong with that?
I also think Christians Christians specifically could definitely make an argument that even though aliens are real, it doesn't mean that God isn't real as like towards them. They could just make the claim that like aliens weren't made in the image of God. They probably use their Bible to say we should be in charge of the aliens, TBH.
Yeah, no, I'm like, as we're talking about it, I think that's probably something that like would happen. But I think that's nothing new in terms of like these institutions reinterpreting religious text to fit whatever thing is going on.
But so then, Ethan, why
time.
shouldn't theism exist? Like, or why should theism exist? Like, why is it a good? Because you're arguing like that it should exist, which I would say is you arguing some level of like ought claim. You're saying it ought to exist. Like, what's the like why?
Mm-hmm. I guess I'm just coming from my perspective of how I guess the way I view God, just to give some context, is much more aligned with Brahmin and like the Hinduism culture, where it's kind of like.
Hmm.
Are you familiar? Like, does that make sense?
I'm familiar with that bullshit, just like the rest of it. I mean, I've spent my life studying world religions. I just spend most of it focused on the religions that are impacting me most directly. Is there any good reason to believe in karma?
No. Like, I'm just saying specifically, like the idea that basically, I think we're all connected in some sort of way. We're all made of the same atoms. So I think at some level we're all
How do you demonstrate
connected.
That, Ethan? We're not made of the same atoms. My atoms aren't your atoms. What makes you think we're connected in any substantive way?
Because if we believe the Big Bang theory to be true, then all atoms must have come from a singular point.
Okay. Ethan,
so
did all of my mom's children come from the same womb?
Sorry, say it again.
Did all of my mom's children come from the same womb?
Maybe.
Did all of your mom's...
you can twist this back. Ethan, you can twist this back. Yeah. Wait. I'm about to. I'm gonna coach Ethan for like 1 second.
Is a thing.
I'm gonna. Yeah.
So let's do it this way. Are you familiar with the Duggars?
Oh, are those like 19 kids and counting, or I don't know?
19 kids and counting. So assuming we can presume that Mama Duggar had 19 kids pop out of her womb. They all came from the same place. Does that mean they're all the same?
No, I don't know. They're not the same.
Does it mean that they're all connected in any substantive way?
Well, that's where I think, like, basically what I'm getting at, I guess, is just the fact that I've only seen human beings be the only species that is able to have some sort of like consciousness, some sort of like.
That's not true.
Like you don't
think the other great apes are conscious?
Sorry, like I meant more a sapient, to the level of creating art sapiens. And
yes. I'm aware that
elephants create
that happens as well. And the other apes have a concept of fairness and equality. My cat knows when it's done wrong. To say these things aren't conscious. So conscience or consciousness, but now you're trying to do sapience. So you're trying to claim that humans are special in some way. Okay, that doesn't mean they're all connected.
No, I agree that like that's not like 100% the case. Like I'm not 100.
It's not 1% the case. It's not 1% the case, Ethan. You're saying that because we all came from the Big Bang, we're all connected, and I'm asking you to justify that in any way that is useful to anyone. The atoms in my body aren't the atoms in your body. The thoughts in my head aren't the thoughts in your head, clearly. And so when you say because of the Big Bang, if we accept the Big Bang, then we're all connected. Not in any meaningful way. It's like saying, hey, I was born in St. Louis. You were born in St. Louis. Now we're connected. No, we're fucking not. I wasn't actually born in St. Louis, and I don't know where you were born. But I'm saying you don't get to start with, here's a point where we merge in one facet and suggest that this connects us. In what way are you and I connected?
What I'll say is like I think I agree with what you're saying. I'm not really grounded in any sort of I guess it's not really grounded in anything other than just the fact that we all
then why believe it? Why on earth, Ethan, are you okay with believing things that you don't understand and can't express? When you believe in things that you don't understand, according to Stevie Wonder, what happens? You suffer. You suffer. When you believe in things that you don't understand, you suffer.
He's too young to get the Stevie Wonder.
I know.
I know.
I got to get my age stuff in there. But
you want first name basis with him?
Damn. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, I shouldn't. Mr. Wonder.
Mr. Wonder sounds so weird.
I'm just wondering. I'm still just so confused, though, Ethan, because I don't know how this tells us that like a world without theism shouldn't exist. Like, what would be the negatives to a world without theism versus why does a world with theism equate to you as a better world than a world without it? I'm still so confused on this.
Yeah. No, I think it's just more so the evidence of what I see, like how it can, like the good that can come out of believing in something that's greater than you and having that level of humility. I think, again, it's very anecdotal what I'm speaking of, and I understand that, and it's not really rooted.
But that doesn't. That's not related to theism, though, because like humanists can believe in something larger than themselves. They can believe in like just human nature and how humans like can connect together, and that's a belief in something larger than you. But when you're saying it should be theism, that means you're saying that specifically the belief in a god or gods is what is more preferable to a world without.
I think it's just the level of humility that a lot of humans need, like myself included. But I think I guess it's just there's a lot of.
Can you explain what you mean by that? Like do you believe that like religion leads to a larger level of humility? Is that what you're saying? Maybe not religious, but theism.
Yeah, because like that's the thing where like. That's the issue that I have with it all, is that I'm really opposed to religious institution and how it warps like its relation with theism. I guess it's just my overall belief. I'm trying to connect some sort of way science with spirituality.
How would you possibly do that? What is spirituality? Is it natural?
Honestly, I don't have the answers. Like I try to pick and borrow from.
I'm not even picking on you, Ethan. I don't either. I've been asking for 20 years for anyone to tell me what spiritual or spirituality means. And to date, no one has been able to come up with a cogent thought that identifies what spiritual is in any useful sense. It's all, well, you know, it's kind of a feeling and a connection, and there's something greater than you, and blah, 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 blah. What reason do you have to think that anything spiritual is in fact real?
I think it's truly, if I'm to believe in science, it's almost purely emotional.
Are you saying science is emotional?
No. Like I'm thinking like science. Okay, the chemicals in your brain, that's really what's going on.
When did science confirm that supernatural is emotional?
No, sorry, I just mean that like people maybe like what's really going on with a lot of like spirituality is just your like emotional responses.
Okay, that's a maybe. Why call it spiritual? Because to me, emotions aren't spiritual. Psychology isn't spiritual. So why call it spiritual?
Yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't call something God until I had good reason to think it was God. I got to call something spiritual.
To make this easier, Ethan, to make this easier on me, because I'm still looking for the answer here, is your claim that a world in which people believe in something greater than themselves is a world that is better, and specifically that greater thing to be some level of spirituality or some supernatural force, that's a better world than one where people don't believe this? I could just be restating the obvious, but again, I'm a little lost.
Not really don't believe, but without it. Like, I just think
why?
It shouldn't. Again, I guess it goes down to just the emotional response and the good that I've seen come out of.
But if people are able to do that without theism, then why would we need theism for that? Because I personally, I'll be honest, I've known more theists who have been terrible people than I've known theists who have not been. And now that's totally anecdotal, but I'm just saying, in my experience, like people who are, let me not loop all theists together, but in my experience, people who believe in a God specifically tend to be worse people than people who are just spiritual, who believe like the universe has some mystical power or whatever. They tend to be okay. I have no issues with that, just despite the fact that I don't believe in that sort of stuff. But like, when you are saying theism, I assume that you're saying some level of belief in a God, right? And what is it like? What is it about that makes you a better person? If anything, I think it would be the opposite.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair, because I'm not an idiot. I've seen, like, I've met people too, and like I've bounced around with my personal beliefs for a long time, and like between off the deep end in one way or the other. And again, people who are theists, a lot of them tend to not be good people, in my opinion, as well. I guess that's just where the religious institution comes in, and
well, I think theism is always going to have to lead to some level of religious institution. Maybe not in and of itself, but I think people will always use some level of theism to control.
Yeah, I think that's just I agree. And
so then would you then I would assume that you would agree that like a world without theism then would be a better world than a world with it, because a world without theism, you would have less tools of control.
I think, like, sure, maybe, but I think at the end of the day, like, those, I'm just curious what the mechanisms of control would be in that case. I think they would still exist. I don't know.
No, I'm not saying that methods of control won't still exist, but if we have let's say we have 5 methods of control, and one of those methods of control is theism, then a world without that means we have one less method of control that would arguably be better than a world with it.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree. I guess I'm just seeing it with kind of like rose tinted glasses, but I don't know. I also pick and choose like from a lot of different places. Like, I think a lot of people should really invest their time, especially, like, I don't want to be preachy, but like Buddhist practices, self-reflection, very important.
Why?
But I guess that's fair.
Why? What about the Buddhist practice of self-reflection is necessarily a good thing?
Well, I can speak from my experience in saying that being able to develop skills of self-reflection, and that hasn't come through solely just Buddhism, it's through therapy and other things. But I think it's all of those things together.
So you're saying from your personal experience of Buddhism and therapy, you're going to give credit to Buddhism?
No. Sorry. I shouldn't do that. I should let me then. What I then just mean in terms. Let me just focus on the Buddhism side then. Absolutely, yeah, that's totally fair. That's my bad.
But I mean, do you have anything beyond your personal
least
experience? Because I have personal experience. I used to hate weed, marijuana, but I have diabetic neuropathy and pain and difficulty sleeping. And somebody told me I was dating someone who, to steal a joke from Bill Hicks, smoked more weed than the average traveling funk band. And she said that if I wanted to actually get some sleep, I should just hit this vape or this joint before bedtime and I would be out cold. And you know what? It worked. Now, that's my personal experience with weed. I have other friends for whom it's a bad thing. It increases their anxiety. It makes them paranoid. Can we make any sort of declaration about what the actual benefit is of weed, even normatively, based on our own experience?
Fun fact:
we need more data,
get
right?
high. There's a Jovan fun fact nugget. I can't get high off of weed. Has no effect on me. Kind of sucks.
That's tough. Sorry, Matt, could you repeat?
Would it be rational for Jovan to think all the rest of us are lying when we say we get high off weed?
Would it be rational? No.
But would it be rational for any of us to conclude based on our individual experience that weed is a good thing or a bad thing for other people? So when you start saying the world would be better off using, Buddhist self-reflection things, I just want to know why.
Amongst other things, I will say, but yes,
okay. So amongst other things like eating right, getting enough exercise, trying not to be a douche nozzle, engaging in secular humanist stuff.
Yeah, I guess it's just I see the practices of those that having that self-awareness is kind of active practicing of certain Buddhist beliefs. I guess it's just how I'm kind of viewing it.
Why are you looking at this particular type of self-awareness as a good thing?
Well, I'm
not saying you're wrong. I'm just asking.
So I've just kind of tried to look at sort of the major faiths, I'll call them, because I don't even know if Buddhism, they don't even really believe in a God the way that other faiths do.
It depends. It depends on which group you talk to and at what time.
Yeah,
I've had debates with everything. That's the other thing. If there's something so here, I'm gonna let you off the hook, Ethan, because we're getting close to doing super chats. I want to get to the point because I think you're right there. It's absolutely fine to explore and try out different things in the world. And if you find something beneficial and genuinely makes you feel that you are a better person, and other people would seem to affirm that you are a better person from this, by all means, keep doing it. I despise Alcoholics Anonymous and 12-step sobriety programs because I think they replace one addiction with another addiction, an addiction to the program. And I think that if you build your house on sand and the program falls away, then all of a sudden your reason for sobriety falls away. And by the way, Alcoholics Anonymous is a vile organization that hides their recidivism rates and basically says, if you go back to drinking, the program didn't fail you, you failed the program. It also conditions people to say, I have no power over this. I have to depend on a higher power. And generally they'll go with God, but it doesn't have to be God. It could be, a love of other human beings, whatever. But all that does is take responsibility away, which also means it takes credit away. I despise Alcoholics Anonymous. And despite that, if someone is going to AA meetings and it is helping them stay sober, I want them to keep living that better life. Similarly, if meditating works for you, great. If smoking weed works for you, great. Doesn't work for Jovan. I didn't know that. If practicing Buddha stuff, great, cool. Well, we can't go around saying, I experienced this, therefore it's good for the world, because it could be. We could be the oddball, and it could actually be bad for the world. And so In the same way that I'm not a deist or a theist, I could never be a deist, because that is patently absurd. To claim that you have discovered the undiscoverable is bizarre to me. That you have found that, which is anyway. But it's I have no problem with theism, apart from nobody's offered a rational justification for it. When they do, I'll be a theist. I do have a problem with individual religions, because not only are they still in theism, which means they have not justified their beliefs, but also they've expanded on those beliefs to claim that they know what God said. Or I noticed in your thing, I'm going to cheat a little bit, because in the call screen thing, you said Jesus is a good role model. I completely disagree.
Jesus.
I specifically disagree. Jesus is a garbage role model. We have no reason to think that Jesus actually existed, but I'm happy acknowledging that he did. We have no reason to think we have the words of Jesus, but I'm happy to say, okay, these are the words in the book. And if you take a red letter Bible and you read through it, you will find that, as I did when I did a video on the Sermon on the Mount, you'll find that Jesus said some good things and some bad things. I don't see that Jesus is a good role model for a number of different reasons, not the least of which is he essentially claims that he is God, the same God of the Old Testament, the same God that was okay with slavery, the same God that was okay with genocide, the same God that is okay having different standards for Jews than Gentiles, the same God that has different standards for women than men. If you were God and you came down and took human form and had something good to say, I would think your first duty would be to correct all the misinformation that's been said and done in your name in the thousands of years prior to that. Jesus didn't do that, which means Jesus is either a liar, a delusional liar. And I don't think delusional I was going to say or something else, but I don't think delusional liars are good role models. When you look at what Jesus actually said, if he's God, he's advocating for the God monster, which makes him not a good role model. And if he's not God, then he's delusional and saying that he's here to bring about the kingdom of heaven. How is that a good role model? If the guy down on the corner with the sandwich board says the end is nigh, it doesn't matter whether he's right. He's not a good role model until he can demonstrate that what he's saying is true and good and believable. Jesus didn't do that.
So sorry, I'll like make this quick, just like you said. I guess I should have put, I don't know if I probably should have put that in there, because like I really have a very maybe different interpretation of like stuff in the Bible, because I think there's inconsistencies in the synoptic gospels, which kind of questions like the accuracy between the stories. Like I am fully aware of that. I think the book of John is something else.
I'm sorry.
That's a different.
Yeah, the synoptic. So, for example, what's Jesus say about divorce?
That's the thing about, if we're going to get into this, I guess just with my interpretation of Jesus, I think there are things that the writers took liberties to insert stories or things.
Oh, wait. So when Jesus says that anyone who divorces his wife, except for grounds of sexual immorality, makes her commit adultery, you think that the writers came up with that and not Jesus?
Well, it's writers who wrote it. Like, I'm fully aware that it was human beings after 70 AD who wrote the Bible.
That's not the issue. Okay. What parts of the Bible do you think are actually what Jesus said, and how do you know?
I think it's all the communist stuff. Everything else.
I think it's like what I take from Jesus is basically like the way I think about it is like Jesus was born a Jew, died a Jew. That was his story. If you were to take any lesson from what I don't want to get preachy, but if you take any lesson from what he learned, it's love thy neighbor. So it's things built.
You're so full of shit, it's comical. You're so full of shit, it's comical. My question was, how can you tell which things attributed to Jesus are things Jesus actually said? And what you basically just said is you pick and choose. Well, you pick and choose. Well, then why didn't you answer that question when I asked? Because what you said is you basically pick and choose based on what you think Jesus means, right?
Correct. Yeah. Because
So how is that different from Westboro Baptist Church saying what they think Jesus said and means?
Because I think they incite violence, and I think that's they
what
promote
a garbage response. The answer is there is no difference. You have no better foundation for assuming your interpretation of Jesus is any more accurate than anybody else's interpretation of Jesus. And the only footing you can point to are the words actually attributed to him, whether they're true or not. You have nothing else to point to that is in any way Jesus or Jesus's character. And so you are picking and choosing which words based on the God you've invented in your head, or sorry, the Jesus you've invented in your head. You are on no stronger epistemological grounds than Westboro, than the Catholics, than the Protestants, than the Pentecostals, than the people who think Jesus was man or not man. You have nothing other than, here's what I think about Jesus. So let me ask you this. Why do you give a fuck what you or anybody else thinks about Jesus? Why does that matter?
I think part of it purely is just from like upbringing and like what that's done as like to what that does to a child. But I think
do you care about virginity?
And what do you mean? But like, what do you mean?
Do you care if your partner's a virgin or not?
No.
Okay. Were you brought up to care?
Not like my parents are never very like that much on me with that, but I just was like, I went to Catholic school, so that was just kind of like the doctrine that I was brought up under.
I'm just trying to figure out. Sorry, Ethan. I'm just trying to figure out. You're like,
don't be sorry.
You're blaming it on your upbringing, and so I'm trying to figure out what parts of your upbringing you have abandoned, and for what reason. Because I don't understand why anybody cares what you or me or anyone else thinks about what Jesus wanted or wants, including if Jesus was standing right here. Why would I care what he had to say?
I think for me, what stands out so I guess what I will say is I don't think there's there's anywhere where he specifically says he is God.
Before Abraham was, I am. The verb tense there suggests that Jesus existed prior to all of this. If you have seen me, you have seen the Father. Yeah, you don't know the Bible. Or did you decide to just disregard those because they don't match your personal internal mental image of Jesus?
No, I'm just saying there's no explicit. Like I understand.
Okay. But not explicit enough for you. Not explicit enough for you that the book says, Jesus says, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Before Abraham was, I am. And that he was killed by people who thought that those things were him putting himself co-equal with God. You don't think that's explicit enough. Okay, cool. Even if you're right, and Jesus never explicitly claimed to be God, so fucking what? I have no way of knowing whether he claimed it or not, explicitly or not, and neither do you. This is a parade of excuses at this point, Ethan. You have a fondness, which you've already noted, for things about a version of Jesus that lives in your head that isn't tied to any particular understanding of the Bible. It is an invention of your own based on what you were brought up with and what you personally prefer. I would love it if more theists just acknowledge that that's what they do, because the cafeteria Christianity is actually what most Christians are engaged in. And it's what leads to people occasionally not remaining Christians and yet still having a fondness for it. I no longer have a fondness for Christianity. I no longer have a fondness for the enslaver. I no longer have a fondness for the useless God that watches as children are tortured and abused. I have no fondness for the notion that goodness is less significant than belief and engaging in genuflecting and sycophancy, if that's a word, to the God of the universe. I am beyond caring about those things until someone demonstrates that they not only know what a God wants, but that I can know what a God wants. And then I will evaluate what that God wants to determine whether or not I care. Because if a God wants me to murder my child, that ain't fucking happening. I'm not going to do what Abraham did, because Abraham failed the test in my view. If a God wants me to enslave the heathen that are surround me, I'm not going to do it. If a God wants me to put women on a different tier than me, to where they can't own property, to where they are barely mentioned in the Bible, to where they, when raped, may be forced, or their rapist may be forced to marry them because they didn't cry out loudly enough. That I'm not in favor of any of that. And so what it seems like you've done, and no bullshit, no nothing. I know I'm in raw mode about Christianity. No bullshit. I'm glad that you've scrubbed the shittiest parts of religion. I just don't know why you're clinging to the other parts, because I don't need them. Why do you?
Yeah, I guess it's, sorry. Okay. Yeah, I guess it's just the fact that I think at the end of the day, Jesus offered a very profound idea of like, what? No matter who you are worthy of love and things like that. And I understand that can be learned where
did Jesus explicitly present that idea? Because he came only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Depart from me, is what he said to his own mother. The notion that all are equal and deserving of love, where's that?
I think in the way he was, like the actions that he committed and healing the sick and saying, sell out all that you have, give to the poor. Like just his actions, and I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to say I think those are good things to do, and I think the idea that you are worthy was something that wasn't really caught on me until and I use Jesus to fill that hole. So
you're not worthy from the biblical standpoint. We are unworthy. We are fallen creatures. We have been given over to a reprobate mind. Christians' main theme is not that we are worthy of love, but that God loves us despite our unworthiness, despite our rebellion, that we are fallen, sinful creatures. So there's nothing within Christianity that says you are worthy of love. What there is them saying that God loves you even though you don't deserve it. And that's fucking abuse. He beats me because he loves me. That's what that is. God is the ultimate mafia boss. That's a really nice soul there. Be a shame if something were to happen to it.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't, like I said, first of all, I don't disagree with you. I think there are things in the Old Testament that are abhorrent. And even in the New Testament, like the way it talks about homosexuality, I think it's awful. I guess it's like we've kind of concluded, it's just my own personal interpretation of Jesus, that is just an all-loving person who just wants to have everyone be in unity. That's just, again, like we said, that's just my interpretation. And who am I to say that that's correct? But I want to preface or just end. But
here's the thing.
Sorry.
Here's the thing, Abe. When you say, who am I to say that's correct? You're calling to say what you think is correct. And the issue here is, what justification do you have that it's correct? And you just have nothing more than what you feel.
No, like we've talked about it, and my mind can change and my opinions can change. Like I understand where
the point is, you're shifting the burden of proof. You're putting yourself in a position where you're going to accept your current position until somebody proves it wrong, even though it may be unfalsifiable, rather than not holding your current position until it's proven right. That's the problem, is that skepticism isn't being used.
I also just really quick, Ethan, want to point out that, like, I know you said that, like, your mind can be changed and your position can be changed, but, like, we went through this already, and you've already admitted that you don't have a really good justification for, like, why a world with theism, like, you've admitted that, like, my argument, at least to you, that a world with theism is an arguably worse world, and you didn't change your mind on that. You said, yeah, but I still kind of feel that, like, that's cognitive dissonance, my friend. So I don't know that you've demonstrated that your mind is changeable on this.
I guess that's a fair point. I think I guess it's more so I understand, and like I think your points make sense, and I think I am just being more, I guess, irrational. But I think it's an issue of like no harm, no foul.
Cool, thank you. You answered my question even as I was asking it, because I was like, why are you okay with that? Because I'm not okay with being irrational and knowingly irrational. As a matter of fact, it's antithetical to who I am. But you said no harm, no foul. How do you know there's no harm?
Well, with the like relationships I build with people, I try to be a good person. Like I'm not gonna.
You're the one that's saying there's no harm there. Let me ask you this. If you think you have the right answer, how much time are you going to spend looking for other answers?
Oh, I don't think I have the right answer. I guess this is just my answer as of now. Like I read about this stuff all the time. I don't know. I think it's the real answer.
Then your answer right now might not be correct. Is that right?
Correct.
If it's not correct, wouldn't that be the opposite of no harm, no foul? Isn't believing things that aren't correct and acting upon those beliefs a problem because it's reinforcing your position that I'm going to believe what I believe until somebody shows me there's harm?
I guess I'm just I hear you, and I think I don't think I'm not expecting people to I don't know. I guess I'm not really expecting anyone to change my mind. This is this is what has been able to settle in my mind emotionally, mentally, physically to be or try to be a good person.
Okay, I'm all in favor of you trying to be a good person. I'm not sure how you know what good is, but we don't have time to get into that tonight.
No, like who does? Like it's my best interpretation.
I do, but we don't have time to get to that tonight. I'd be happy to talk to you about it another time. However, the issue here is, and people already know I'm going to ask this, and some people are like, why hasn't he asked this yet? So I'll just get it over with. Do you care more about whether your beliefs are true or whether they are comforting?
I guess in terms of my spiritual beliefs, whether they're true or whether they're comforting.
Wait. Are you saying that you have a different standard? You care more about truth for one category than another category?
Well, does science count? I don't know.
I care more about whether for every belief in every category, I care more about whether it's true than whether it's comforting. There are probably exceptions to that I'm unaware of, but when they're brought to my attention, I can no longer maintain those positions. You seem to have a category of caring more about truth in a science sense and caring more about comfort in a spiritual sense.
For me personally, yes.
That's who I'm talking to.
Yes.
Okay. I not only don't know what spiritual is, but I'm not going to use the label spiritual as an excuse to not care about what's true. I only care if the claim is true. And until it's been demonstrated to be true, I cannot accept it. And I don't put a requirement that it needs to be proven false, because some claims are untestable and unfalsifiable. And so for a claim that's untestable, like there's a deistic God, it is completely irrational to accept that there is a deistic God, because you are basically claiming that you have discovered the undiscoverable.
which I already said earlier, but I wanted to get back. I guess it's like I don't claim to have discovered it. I think, you know, like I guess that's like my whole thing to end this off is like I don't really claim to know. Like I'm stuttering.
I didn't ask that. This isn't about claiming you know. You're saying you believe something, and you're saying you've acknowledged you believe something, that it is in fact irrational, and that for some categories of things you care more about whether they're comforting than whether they're true. That what I just said is accurate, right? You said those things?
Yeah, I guess just what I believe to be good is true.
That's fine. I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure we got to the point where you, for some things, care more about whether it's comforting than true, and you acknowledge that you are engaged in irrational beliefs because you find them comforting and good. I can't do that. I don't know why people can or do. It doesn't make sense to me. I appreciate the fact that you are both honest about the motivations and the lack of justification, and that you're genuinely trying to be a good person. That's all good stuff. But at the end of the day, I want to know what's true. And for now, at least, I don't know that you have anything useful to add on what's true.
No, I think that's incredibly fair. I think atheists are very fair to claim that, because you know, what proof is there? I agree.
As soon as they come up with evidence, as soon as you figure out how to prove a deistic God, matter of fact, I will quit the show and preach the goodness of my broken epistemology and deism the day somebody shows how to confirm an untestable claim beyond the bounds of our ability to investigate, like deism. Now, I rescind that if we come up with a way to investigate. But if a deistic God is by definition a non-interventionist God, that means it doesn't interact with reality in a detectable way, and yet you think there's good reason to believe it's there. And I'm like, that's detecting the undetectable. Anyway, I don't need to keep going. I appreciate the call, Ethan. Please keep trying to be a good person. Please keep working to figure out what's true or not true. But in the absence of an ability to do that, I appreciate that you're trying to be good.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.
You bet. Thanks, Ethan.
Eric, do you want to learn how to Mongolian throat sing? Check this out.
No, you try. No, keep that shit to yourself. Don't hear it.
Anyway, thanks for watching that clip. Patreon.com/calltheline is where you could support us. And maybe you should subscribe and like the video, because it was a killer video. Or maybe it wasn't. Was it a Forrest video? If this was a Forrest video, you don't have to click like. If it was an Eric video, go ahead and click dislike.